For those of us in the field of public administration, the question of whether we have too little or too much discretion is difficult to answer. Some would argue that administrative discretion is dangerous because it allows government to be run by unelected officials. But for most of us, the question of too little or too much discretion requires some understanding, including who is exercising the discretion, what kind of discretion is being exercised, and the potential dangers for abuse. For the purposes of our discussion, the discretion of public administrators refers to the freedom to decide what should be done in a particular situation. Discretion encompasses all levels of public organizations. It starts with our street-level bureaucrats and frontline service providers who deal directly with the public. It includes supervisors who have the responsibility for translating vague and competing policy directions into operating procedures. And it ends with senior administrators who establish policy directions in partnership with elected public officials. Street-level bureaucrats form a great part of the public face of democratic governance. Street-level bureaucrats' discretionary authority plays a key role in maintaining the legitimacy of our governing systems. Studies document a remarkable devotion to duty among these employees under conditions of high stress and little recognition. Numerous studies indicate that most Americans are pleased with their direct interaction with street-level employees. The high overall satisfaction with street-level bureaucracy is often the result of exercising the kind of discretion necessary to get the job done. Such discretion frequently requires balancing complicated and conflicting claims that defy resolution through the application of some sort of response. Middle managers play a decisive role in creating the necessary legitimacy to implement policy initiatives of the larger organization. The following 4 tasks are identified as critical to the work of middle managers. First, they interpret and represent the interests of their organizational unit. Second, they lend and secure the cooperative assistance of other work units. Third, they develop organizational relationships across legal and budgetary boundaries. And fourth and finally, they leverage other people's time. One of the most important and frequent tasks of middle managers in organizations is working out agreement with other middle managers on how to best allocate resources and coordinate work across organizational units. Middle managers also develop public policy responses to the issues of the day. Another major task of middle managers is marketing and delivering the work group's expertise to others. When faced with tasks that a work unit cannot undertake on its own, a middle manager develops and relies upon organizational relationships with others outside the unit in order to get things accomplished. Middle managers often are called upon to attend meetings and perform tasks that have a vague, ill-defined, or even ill-conceived purpose. In such settings, middle managers are expected to represent the collection of interests and be inclusive in doing so. Finally, senior managers play a critical role in ensuring purpose in public organizations in the face of multiple sources of authority. These multiple sources of authority present real challenges for senior managers in coordination, conflict, and compromise as they reconcile and translate their missions into plans for action. Senior leaders in public organizations have a much more complex task in building legitimacy for their work. When drawing in multiple sources of authority, public organization leaders must operate in a glass house, constantly satisfying elected officials and complying with governing board policies and organizational strategic plans. Senior managers in the public sector spend considerable time and energy laying the groundwork for solutions to problems that cut across organizational boundaries within their own jurisdictions. Senior managers are also engaged in almost continuous dialogue with other government entities. The objective of this dialogue is to facilitate even more efficient coordination of operations. Senior managers are the chief agents in facilitating interorganizational standards of service. For instance, the police department within a local jurisdiction may have a radically different service standard than its sibling planning department. These differences do not go unnoticed by citizens and elected officials. The definition of good service depends heavily on the culture of the community that the agency serves. Senior managers must understand and honor the values that emulate this culture. To summarize, the exercise of discretion in the public sector is frequently a matter of reconciling at least the following 5 perspectives. First, the organizational perspective, which emphasizes consistency in processes and maximizing of organizational resources. Second, the professional perspective, which places a premium on the autonomy of expert judgment. Third, the client perspective, which places a priority on individualized problem solving. Fourth, the community perspective, which emphasizes the preservation of values that are embedded in the unique history, culture of institutions. Fifth and finally, the legal perspective, which emphasizes the protection of citizens' rights, due process, and public accountability. Public discretion throughout all levels of government does not mean that all discretion can be treated equally. In fact, as we've already seen, the discretion exercised by street-level administrators is different from the discretion exercised by middle or senior managers.